Hey everyone, Jamie of Jamie Tries fame here. Izzy asked me to do a video while he was away camping, which, let's be honest, was a bad idea on his part. But anyway, since it's October, that means it's my favorite time of year, which is Halloween. My favorite way to celebrate Halloween is to watch my favorite genre of film, which is horror. Nothing gets me more in the Halloween mood and mindset than watching some of my favorites every year. One thing I've noticed about my generation is a lot of them don't watch movies that are older than the 2000s. I've heard so many times from people that are around my age that anything older than, say, even 5 years is too dated for them, which is just insane to me, and especially awful considering that, in my opinion, it's kind of slim pickings when it comes to good modern horror. Since I had to make a video anyway, I thought it'd be good to showcase some of my personal favorite horror movies to get you in the mood for Halloween. My only rule being that they're at least older than the year 2000. To any horror buffs watching, this is intended for those that don't watch older horror movies or someone who isn't informed on horror at all. So be warned, some of these are stupidly obvious choices. I hope because of this video that some of you end up watching these films and start watching older movies like I have my whole life. Anyway, enough with the introduction. Here's my top 10 list for old horror films to get you in that Halloween mood. We are kicking things off right with number 10 being Reanimator. The movie surrounds a young medical student named Hubert West and his roommate Dan Kane. As West reveals, he is obsessed with bringing the dead back to life and ends up involving Kane as a partner. The movie is like a combination of Frankenstein with zombies. What makes this movie stand out is the incredible performance of Jeffrey Combs as West. He perfectly captures the mad doctor in a likable but insane way. Mix his great performance with fantastic practical effects that only the 80s could bring, and an awesome original score, Reanimator is a must-see. For some reason, I find comedy horror really gets me in the mood for Halloween like no other combination of genre, and Ernest Scared Stupid is the first to appear on my list at number 9. If you don't know the character Ernest, he's very similar to Pee Wee Herman, but nowhere near as popular. A lovable nitwit who always finds himself in a new predicament with each film, Ernest this time around tussles with a demonic troll who turns children into wooden dolls. I grew up loving Ernest, so the nostalgia for me definitely helps me love the film, but even so, the entire movie is filled with slapstick humor and a great Halloween vibe. With Ernest terrified most of the time, it can actually feel like a modern Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. Also, you wouldn't expect it to be scary at all, but the kids being turned into wooden dolls is kind of freaky, believe it or not. While I think Ernest Saves Christmas is a perfect Christmas movie, Scared Stupid isn't the perfect Halloween movie, but the characters are absolutely lovable, and it still does a great job to get you in the spirit. From easily the least scary to the scariest on this list, The Exorcist is number 8. I have to be perfectly honest. Part of the reason I included The Exorcist is because it may be the only movie to still truly scare me. Demons or ghosts with a combination of children just get me. The movie centers around Regan, a child living alone with her mother. When Regan starts acting strangely, the mother seeks the help of doctors who find nothing wrong. Well, better call the priests. Without spoiling too many scenes, the ones that still get me are Regan, quote-unquote, walking down the stairs, and when Regan's mother is trapped inside the room alone with her possessed daughter. We may never see a movie truly as terrifying as The Exorcist because the crew that worked on the movie put Linda Blair, who played Regan, through hell just to get her to act the way she did. If I remember correctly, Linda Blair needed a lot of psychiatric help after the film, and after just watching it, I don't blame her. Truly impossible to not include Halloween on this list, and I am placing it at number 7. Halloween is a movie that will obviously get you in the Halloween mood. Centering around high school student Laurie Strode, the murderer Michael Myers, who escaped a sanitarium, begins stalking her. Though I love the Rob Zombie remake, not the sequel however, the original stays with you and is a lot more memorable and compelling. In the original, Michael is more haunting, being seen for just a moment and vanishing. But as fantastic as Michael is, he just doesn't hold a candle to Donald Pleasant's character, Dr. Sam Loomis, Michael's psychiatrist. Pleasance is one of those actors who you don't get anymore. Every role he plays, he gives it his all. The panic he feels throughout the movie trying to find Myers really sells the whole thing. And if you love him as much as I did in this movie, you absolutely need to see Prince of Darkness. Halloween is an essential Halloween film. I guarantee you once you see it, the theme song will be in your mind for every future Halloween to come. The 80s, vampires, classic horror references, and practical effects. Fright Night is almost everything I love, and I'm placing it at number 6. Though most will tell you The Lost Boys is the essential 80s vampire film, I have to give it to Fright Night instead. A teenage boy becomes obsessed with his new next-door neighbor, and as someone who loves horror, he begins to believe that the neighbor is a vampire. No one believes him, of course, but he has to investigate. The amount of references in this movie to horror is worth having it on this list alone. Most notable being nods to Rear Window as he spies on the potential vampire, and Roddy McDowall's character being an awesome reference to Peter Cushing's portrayal of Van Helsing. It's also neat seeing Amanda Bierce in the love interest role because I just can't forget about her character in Married with Children. Imagine the jokes if Ed O'Neill was playing the vampire instead. Fright Night is a perfect 80s film and one of my favorite vampire movies. This is my favorite Mel Brooks film and my favorite Gene Wilder film. Young Frankenstein is number 5. Young Frankenstein is a parody movie on the original Frankenstein. Much like Mel Brooks' Spaceballs is a parody on Star Wars, you get similar plot with some great jokes. However, this one can be considered a sequel to Frankenstein, as Gene Wilder's character is the grandson of the infamous mad scientist. He hates being compared to his insane grandfather, but once he learns that he has inherited the Frankenstein estate in Transylvania, he goes to inspect and finds that perhaps the madness of his grandfather is in his blood too. It may be because I grew up watching this film every Halloween with my parents, but it was very hard not to put this one higher up on the list. Unlike most comedies where you watch it once and forget about it, each time Gene and Mel got together, their films are something you come back to again and again until you remember each line. Young Frankenstein is a true classic in 2 genres at once, a must-see. Impossible to include only one, as each is so unique from the last. The Evil Dead Trilogy is number 4. The series starts off with a group of friends traveling to an isolated cabin for spring break. Within the cabin, they discover the Necronomicon, aka the Book of the Dead, and decide it's a great idea to read the book out loud. Not interested? Well, spoiler, but the 3rd movie transports the main character Ash, who's played by none other than Bruce Campbell, to medieval times where he must save a kingdom. Yeah, I bet you're interested now. The way that all 3 movies are direct sequels and fantastic in their own way, while also being so different from one another, amazes me. The first is a classic horror with unintentional funny moments. The second is a lot like the first, but with very intentional funny moments. Like the part where everything in the house is coming alive. It's just hilarious and insane. While the third is an adventure movie with horror elements that suddenly is taking place in the Middle Ages. It's absolutely insane, and you must see all of them, but if I have to pick one, it's Army of Darkness. It just combines everything great from the first 2, but throws in a ton of adventure into the mix. Plus, I'm pretty sure most of the memorable one-liners are from this one. I haven't seen the series yet that came out in 2015, but I have no doubt that with Bruce and Sam Raimi on board, it must be fantastic. I'll do my best not to say his name 3 times. Beetlejuice is number 3. Beetlejuice is directed by Tim Burton. I don't need to say anything more for you to see this movie. As always, Burton creates his usual twisted and unique world with what is possibly his greatest film ever, if I wasn't such a huge Batman fan and Bela Lugosi fan. Damn, this director is talented. Anyway, a house is sold to a family which includes a goth daughter named Lydia. However, the house is haunted by the original owners who tragically died, and they need to scare the new owners out of the house. They befriend a daughter and are unable to scare the rest of the family out, so they seek the help of the untrustworthy Beetlejuice. Crap. Said it 3 times. Who's played by the amazing Michael Keaton. If you have seen any other Tim Burton film before the 2000s, you know you owe it to yourself to watch Beetlejuice. A gorgeous and demented world is brought to life in only the way Tim Burton can pull off, while also pairing it with an incredible, as always, Danny Elfman score. Beetlejuice is a must-watch. The Goonies put in a blender with classic horror. Monster Squad is number 2. The Goonies is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it is tough to choose which is a better film between these two, as they're both pretty similar. A group of kids who belong to their own clubhouse called the Monster Squad love old horror films, What they didn't expect is they would have to save the world from Dracula, the Mummy, the Wolfman, the creature from the Black Lagoon, and even Frankenstein's monster, as they have all come back into modern times. There is no other horror film I know of that's like this, and it fills you with a sense of childlike wonder. Seeing a bunch of kids figuring out how to battle the classics that are so beloved is perfect, and I'm shocked it took me so long to find this movie. It is really something that I'm constantly recommending to people. Well, there's really only one way that this movie that truly makes you feel like a kid again could be topped, but in my opinion, it does with number 1. You want it to feel like Halloween? You can't beat the classics. The golden age of horror is number 1. It's kind of a cop-out to include an entire time period of films as number 1, I know, but for me, watching almost any Universal horror film gets me more in a Halloween mood than anything on this list. If I didn't lump them together, this would just be a Universal horror list. This will probably be the biggest challenge to watch for anyone thinking movies older than 5 years are too old, but trust me, it's worth it. Whichever one you choose to watch is a true classic and has a genuine historic feel, which cannot be replicated by anything else. Not to mention the style of acting, writing, and pretty much everything that made these films great is completely lost on movies today. The must-sees are probably obvious, but I'll list it anyway. Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, and The Wolfman. If I have to choose one, it'll be Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, who is my all-time favorite actor. Each film sets a standard forever of that character, but Bela's acting as Dracula truly is remarkable, and it is obvious why he is so horribly typecast, because he is Dracula, and every vampire seen on the silver screen afterwards will forever be compared to him. But in my opinion, Lugosi always comes out on top. Just watch as his presence dominates every scene. Every word spoken carries such meaning. The moment you see Lugosi appear on his staircase, he has completely sucked you into the movie like few actors have ever been able to do. Apart from Bela, Dwight Frye's portrayal of Renfield, Dracula's minion, is fantastic as well, and some scenes, like when they discover him within the ship, still wow me each time I see it. Lugosi and Frye's acting in this film is what makes it hard to watch modern films for me. Both are masters of their craft. Frankenstein and the Wolfman are hard to beat, but Dracula always comes out on top for me. I guess even I was hypnotized. So, if you want to get in that Halloween mood, choose which classic Universal horror film interests you the most, or choose a bunch. Then on Halloween Eve, with your house decorated, pop your choice in, and enjoy as you're transported back and consumed with the feeling of Halloween like you haven't felt quite possibly since you were a kid. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick peek into the horror genre, and go check out some of these movies on your own. Just want to say a quick thanks to James Rolfe and Mike Matei at Cinemassacre for inspiring this video. Their annual series Monster Madness has been running 10 years, and this year's possibly the final one. I highly recommend checking the series out. Without Monster Madness, I definitely wouldn't be as big into horror as I am today. So thank you guys. Whether it's watching horror, scaring your friends, or decorating for this great holiday, I wish you all a happy and terrifying Halloween.